always striven for greatness. Yet when I reached out to seize their greatness, I was ostracized. My so-called peers dubbed my experiments on living test subjects unethical, reckless. Some even attempted to discredit me and my discoveries. It was then I realized only I truly understood greatness. Of course, my persecutors soon changed their tune when our planet was threatened, just as I predicted it would be. Suddenly, they looked to me for answers, and I was happy to provide them. I selected and archived the best Kolu had to offer and created a vessel to hold it. You, my ship. An ark to an eternal Kolu. Despite the initial scientific reception, my terminals are perhaps my greatest achievement. My legacy. After several suboptimal results and the denial of further resources, I became the first fully successful integration. This proved pivotal. I was able to build a network that would obey my will, realize my vision for our evolution. In that moment, a spark was lit. That spark was new Kolu, and I have carried it like a beacon through the multiverse. Endless planets of organic matter just waiting to be collected and molded. For who has a greater right to the multiverse than we Koluans? And who better to lead them than me? The only Koluan who truly saw where our futures lay. As I reached dimension after dimension, I realized the enormity of my task. Countless Kolus lost to countless disasters, without a Koluan of my will, my drive to rally behind. I must assume the inferiority of my other selves, based on the evidence available. And as I cannot alter time, not yet, all I can do is solve for the problem of Kolu's fall in retrospect. There is no saving the dream of the Kolus that once were, only rebuilding their glory anew. In my image, of course. This isn't about empire, it's about legacy. First and foremost, I am a scientist. New Kolu is my experiment, and it must be given every possible chance of success. More than perfecting my terraforming model, I would need a perfect model of the multiverse itself. Every conceivable upset has a contingency plan. Every potential threat to New Kolu is isolated and studied. Elements recur across the multiverse, but there are anomalies, uncertainties, generators of chaos. Most need to be neutralized. Some I can use, on the genetic level at least. There's always space in my archives and my laboratory. I was conservative in my first terraforming attempts. I chose uninhabited planets, only to be stymied by their lack of material. After too many of these failures, I had no choice but to select inhabited worlds. I began with the less developed, those that would minimize my impact. There were ethics to consider. It wouldn't do to have new Koluans mired by moral quandaries about their very existence after all. Still, I encountered further failures, pushing me to more developed worlds. A lesser scientist would have balked, abandoned the entire venture. Then I found it, so like Kolu in makeup. Its atmosphere would need scrubbing, the indigenous flora and fauna removed. It was almost as if we had come home. Sol 3 to its inhabitants was guarded by pesky metahumans and meddlers. I dealt with these sorts on previous terraforming attempts. But these were so different, so challenging. The fight they put up forced the first tactical deployment of my terminals. While much closer than any other attempt, it was still ultimately a failure. Confrontations with the more combative inhabitants, coupled with primary planetary makeup, sadly left it unsuitable. I would need careful planning, closer study of the populace, some experimentation, perhaps. More time. I would do anything to secure the best probability of survival for New Kolu. I would repeat the process as many times as it took. I simply needed more Earths. With sufficient repetition, overcoming each Earth's most prominent champions has become routine. Their morality, their values, so predictable, so exploitable. Curiously, it's the most expendable and loathsome inhabitants of each world that have proven to be the most resilient and obstructive. They are the antitheses of the so-called superheroes. Inconstant, illogical, fragile, yet still they thrive. My simulations have been unable to accurately account for the degree of error they introduce. If I could harness this unquantifiable variable, I could ultimately develop an absolute defense against it. I will study these contemptible Earthlings, draw out their anomalous natures. Chaos claimed my former world. It will not claim New Kolu.